Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and it's my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
So tonight we are reviewing a movie called Midnight in Paris, which was released in 2011, I think it was.
Now, reason why we're doing this, it comes under a fantasy sort of thing, because it's a fantasy comedy, and we do the odd fantasy film, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. So, and under the behind the scenes, you don't see too many CGI in this, but that's under the scenes, obviously, because in this
CGI
one.
in it?
Well, there might be CGI, obviously, in it, but it's hidden very carefully.
Well, I don't think there's much in it, actually.
Well,
I haven't noticed too much.
Well, all the time, it takes place in a real place. It's actually a real location they're filming in at this time. It's located in real Paris and everything, and that's one of the things I miss most about the film industry, really going to real places.
Yeah, going on location, that's... apart from the odd James Bond movie or something or other, but this is actually filmed in Paris. Gee.
Yeah, unlike other movies where they probably send a crew to the country, to the place, then bring back any footage they have, and then do a sort of a CGI with their actors to pretend they're in Paris. But in this one, this is the real deal. This is the real feeling to it, because it does have the look, and it does look like the real deal, because you could tell, you could feel the atmosphere in these shots they shoot this in.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's get down to it. So who directs, writes, executive producer, and what's the budget for this movie? And box office, whatever.
My good groove bits. Okay, all right. Produced by Letty Aronson, Stephen Tenenbaum, and Jaume Ruiz, R-O-U-R-E-S. Anyway, Jaume Ruiz. Okay, so that could be the French side of it. I don't know.
Well,
anyway,
it's French.
Directed by Woody Allen. Written by
Woody Allen.
And
Catering by Woody Allen. I'm just kidding, that one.
Costuming, but no.
No, I imagine the costuming was probably done by actual costumers.
I was joking about the costuming.
I know, I'm just saying that the costume side would be a mixture, seeing as there's a lot of... There's pretty much modern clothing, but also 1920s clothing in this.
Yeah, they had a lot of period. It had some period. So it goes from... Well, their time in 2011, back in time to about 2020s, 1920s. So they had to close for that period, and there's also a time jump a bit further back as well.
Back to
1899,
I think it was.
So it had another a different period of clothing there as well. So yeah, it looked pretty authentic to me. So it's quite good. Anyway, budget 17 mil. Box office about 154 mil. Now, that's what I like to see. Okay?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Now, I just want to go... I don't want... They've got a few people involved here, because they've got a lot of... not cameos, but bit parts here and there. So I'm trying to do my best here. So, and they got some of these out of order a bit. So, okay.
I see.
The main person, the main male star is Owen Wilson. Mm-hmm. Now, Rachel McAdams plays, I believe, his girlfriend, fiancée, something or other. So Rachel McAdams plays Inez. Owen Wilson plays Gil Pender, P-E-N-D-R.
I used to thought it was Bender, but now I read it and see
Rachel
it's
McAdams
Pender.
plays his fiancée, whatever, Inez. Now, there is a beautiful lady in it called Marion Cotillard, who plays Adriana. She's a back-in-time person, back to the 1920s. And she's a fictionalised interest of Picasso. Tom Hiddleston plays F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Alison Pill plays Zelda Fitzgerald. Corey Stoll plays Ernest Hemingway.
Yeah.
Adrian Brody plays Salvador Dali.
Yeah, he's cool.
Kathy Bates plays Gertrude Stein. I won't mention the other ones there.
No, I mean, they're only one-offs, some of them.
No, they're just other people. I'll just mention the first names, not the parts. Michael Sheen's in it. Nina Arianda, Carla Bruni, Kurt Fuller as John, Inez's father. Is he the guy who was in the Elvira movie?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah.
He's been in a number of movies, but
I like him. He's funny.
He's been a very big face in the industry.
Anyway, Mimi Kennedy and Lee Seydoux as Gabriel. Okay, right. I won't mention all the other people in bits and pieces here.
Yes,
true. We got guys like Cole Porter's represented, and Pablo Picasso and other people, but they're only got bit parts there. So,
only just cameos.
Yeah, just a couple of seconds here and there.
Yes.
Anyway, irrespective, good fun movie. So I got nothing else to say about it. Unless, Sarah, you're going to say anything before we tell the story?
Might as well, Mike. So the story begins. We get shots of Paris, here, there, and willy-nilly at different times of the day, different times of the night. A lot of mostly, good shots of that appear in it. Then we cross over to the title card where we hear Gil Pender talking to his fiancée about living in Paris and living in a nice cheap little accommodation, stuff like that.
Inexpensive accommodation. So he wants to write a book.
Yeah, and he fantasizes about how the Paris in the 1920s.
It was the golden era.
The golden era, or so he thinks it is. Anyway, they also check out Claude Monet's little residence, which is beautiful. In this movie, I think, there they go to the hotel where they meet Inez's father and mum for lunch, where they discuss their plans for their upcoming wedding. Of course, Pender and Inez are getting married, obviously, so they're going to be spending time in Paris for a couple of days for a bit of because their father's working there.
A friend of theirs shows up.
Yes, or her friend, I should say.
Her friend, girlfriend, with her boyfriend, husband, was he?
I think more of a boyfriend. I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's a teacher or professor or whatever.
Oh, here by chance they meet, and as his friend. Oh, so it's her male friend and his wife.
Friend.
So they might have gone out before.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a professor or teacher, I think. I'm not sure.
Oh, he thinks he is anyway.
He thinks he is. And he offers to take them, take them around Paris, which he does. He actually takes them to beside where King Louis and his queen lived at one point in their lives, obviously.
And where's that?
Beside, I think it was.
Versailles.
Sorry, I'm not a French person.
You're not a French, yeah.
So,
well, neither am I.
Of course, Inez mentions the book that Gil's making, and of course, he's offered to critique it for him because Gil feels like it doesn't feel right.
He's authority on everything, this guy, is this poor fella, isn't he?
Of course, it's about a man living in one of those antique shops.
He calls it nostalgia shops, selling things from the past, and which is a bit like his character, isn't it?
Yeah, and anyway, they also discuss where they plan on living after they get married. Malibu, according to Inez, but Gil wants to live in Paris in a nice little nice cheapo place with a skylight. Yeah.
Soak up the atmosphere. I'd rather Italy myself. Yeah,
Me too. Anyway, but of course, according to the professor guy, he says this is golden age thinking and yada 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 crap like that. Yeah. They then go off to check out some wines with her parents and them, obviously, and where Gil gets pretty drunk on the wines.
Yeah, instead of having a quick sip and say, "Oh, it was very nice," he's gulping it down. So he's really frustrated.
Yeah, I think he's stressed by the fact that everyone is giving him... They just
give him a hard time. They're not on his page, has that?
Yeah. Inez and her friends go off for a bit of dancing and then some. And while Gil decides to walk back to the hotel, and as he's walking, he actually goes to a spot and where we see a bunch of cars whizzing past them, and then we see an ancient car.
1920 style saloon car, very nice.
Yeah, where a bunch of people dressed in slapper kind of outfits,
Just
women wearing the slapper type outfits, while the men wore suits, the old stuff. And they invite Ben Gill along. They drink wine, champagne, and stuff, and go to parties. And he actually meets what's his name, Scott Fitzgerald and Mrs. Gerald.
And Cole Porter's playing the piano there.
Yeah, and they invite him along to another party too, and they eventually go to a bar where he meets his big idol called what's his name?
Ernest Hemingway?
Yeah, Ernest Hemingway. Yeah. And he's a big admirer of his. He likes his writings.
And there's another guy there called Juan Belamonte. I don't know who he is, but he's supposed to be important too.
There's a lot of people that are, Bender does come across, obviously. Yeah. Anyway, he then asks, his idol, could he read his book, because he feels like he wants someone to evaluate it, but he doesn't want to the wrong person to evaluate.
And Hemingway refuses to read it because he said something like, "If I read it and it's good, I'll hate it. And if I read it and it's crappy, I'll hate it. So you won't get a fair judgment from me." So he'll introduce Gill to a lady called Gertrude Stein, who evaluates his work.
Yeah, see, according to Ernest, he says that you should not ask for another writer's opinion about your writings.
Yeah, I'll lie to you.
Yeah, because
they'll get jealous or
they
whatever.
They could get jealous. They could give you a bad report. They may say that it's a good book, but at the same time may be bad, or they may give you a bad result by saying it's good, saying it's that the book is. Say your book is bad, and they'll say to you, "Oh, it's good," but
and let you make a fool of yourself,
put
you right out of the business,
and put you out of the business. It makes you wonder about this stuff.
No, just like the film industry.
Exactly. So why so many reviewers probably write a bad review for a bad movie, and when a bad movie comes out, they write a good sparkling review for that movie, which comes out.
What I'm trying to say is that you never go by the reviewers. The paid reviewers in the magazines and the newspapers, whatever. If they don't like it, they'll just rubbish it. They'll troll it to death and say, "Well, it's a load of rubbish," even though it's a good movie. Yeah. They just don't like it.
Yeah, a lot of times I often come across that, and a lot of people give movies mixed reviews. Anyway, Gill goes and tries to get his book, but unfortunately, when he tries to get the address back from Ernest.
He goes to get his script back for his motel, and he goes back to current time, which is about 2010.
Yeah, see, when he goes back to the bar again, it disappears. It's now a laundromat.
So, because he didn't walk back in time. He has to wait for another night.
So he goes to tell Inez about what he's seen or saw, and she doesn't believe him, and she says ignores him most of the time.
You've been drinking too much. No.
Yeah, I think she says a brain tumor or something, whatever that is. Anyway, they go out to shop for some stuff at the antique place, and they are going to use Inez's mother's furniture decorations discount, obviously.
Yeah, but
the stuff is there.
What, $10,000 a crappy old chair?
$10,000 for a freaking old chair.
No.
Of course, to her mother and father, it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, but he's not that rich, you see. So a drop in the bucket for some is probably a year's salary to somebody else.
Yes. Anyway, Gill wants to take Inez to the spot he encountered the car that took him back in time. So he tries to take her along, and of course...
And they're waiting.
As they're waiting. And then soon enough she gets bored, and she gets into a taxi and heads home.
And it's just before midnight. So she leaves, and then he hears the clock tower go ding for midnight. Then he realised that's when the cars showed up the other night, midnight.
Yeah, but bear in mind, he was drunk, and he couldn't remember the time.
He did remember it, but he didn't remember everything when he was trying to put it together again, to replicate it. Yeah.
He eventually gets into the car again. There he meets Ernest Hemingway again, and he talks about death and about how his experience in the war. I think he right? Is that right?
I think he was in the war. He had some... what's the word? Cynical writings about the war. Yeah. I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, forget that part. He takes him to Gertrude
he takes him
Stein.
to Gertrude Stein, and there we meet Pablo Picasso and what's his name? Andrea, I think. The girl, obviously, his model.
Adriana.
Adriana.
Yeah.
There, they're discussing a painting Pablo created that is a bit, according to Gertrude, it doesn't look right. According to
Well, it was abstract.
It was an abstract,
Yeah.
and it's not very detailed. And
Had no feeling.
Yeah, while Adriana is very pretty,
Very beautiful,
and very beautiful, and probably great in the sack and stuff like that. But to the rest of the world, it's just it looks like a horse. I'm sorry, that's how I feel sometimes.
It was a weird shape.
It was a weird shape.
Female.
It shows a butt. It shows a head.
A bit of a
It
leg
shows some legs that are pointing in different directions. And anyway, so then Gil presents Gertrude with his novel, where she reads a couple of the words, and Adriana thinks they're great, and she wishes to hear more about his story. And there they discuss about old times. According to Adriana, she likes the 1800s, I think it was. Compared to, she doesn't like the
her golden period about 1890s or something rather. Yeah.
That's her period of her golden age.
She's bored of this era because she thinks, things were so much better 40 odd years ago or 50 years ago. Yeah.
And she's into she's actually a costume designer, or like she.
That's right, costume designer for theatre.
Yeah. She studied there in France with Coco Chanel, I think it was.
That rings a bell.
That rings a bell.
I think she mentioned that. Yeah.
Anyway, so. She's really taken in by Gil and possibly Hemingway, obviously. Anyway, they plan on going out again, but of course Gil decides that he's going to head off, obviously. So he heads off, and there we go back in the present where Gil is wandering with at the shops with his girlfriend and her mother, and he goes to a nostalgia shop there, and he listens
market,
to
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a market.
Yeah, market selling nostalgia stuff, old stuff, old records.
And he listens to Cole Porter that's on a sort of a
an
gramophone.
old 78 on a gramophone. Yes,
Yeah.
I used to have one of those. Believe it or
Yeah,
not.
he actually meets a girl named Gabriella who works there, obviously.
Yeah, she's pretty.
She's nice and pretty.
Nice little
She's
pretty
been
girl.
starring in a lot of French-related movies, a few, and probably
Yeah, what's
an
her
English
name?
one,
Actually,
I
I
think.
did mention her before. Gabriella.
That's okay.
Gabrielle, Leah Sido.
Yeah, you may have heard of
she's
her.
a very beautiful girl.
Anyway, so they end up heading to an art gallery. I think it was probably the what was it called? The Louvre.
The
yes.
Louvre, yeah.
And there they checking out paintings from Impressionist paintings. They even, I think the professor guy even calls Claude Monet's painting an abstract or something.
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
See,
I know.
Paul thinks he knows everything, but he's highly inaccurate.
I know art. I did study.
She's an artist, honestly.
I also
my daughter here.
Yeah, I also studied art at TAFE, and I know an Impressionist painting when I see one.
She studied art. She's an accomplished. You've done acrylics,
Yes.
oils,
Watercolours.
sketching.
Yes.
You did a bit of
Yeah.
clay modelling,
I
clay
have
modelling,
a little,
and a little bit
little.
of sculpting.
Yeah, anyway, then they
Hmm.
see the Adriana painting, and he says it's so-and-so, Pablo Picasso did this on his other mistress, yada. But it was, Gil puts him in his place by saying, no, it was not that person. It was a girl named Adriana who was studying to be a fashion designer, and she had an affair with Pablo Picasso, and Pablo couldn't capture her beauty because of the fact that in the painting, obviously, and it was a big mistake, obviously.
Yes.
Anyway,
And they didn't believe me. Well, you don't know anything.
Yeah, that shut them up.
But they didn't believe me anyway.
They didn't believe.
That thing's full of crap.
Yeah. We then cross over to Gil, who's back in the 1920s, where he's dancing, he's having fun at another party where they're dancing some interesting dances. There he meets Adriana and Hemingway, where they're discussing a little bit about whom Adriana would date, obviously. Like, would she be interested in Hemingway because of his adventurous side, or another guy? I don't even know his name, but I know he's probably very successful and very knowledgeable. Eventually, Gil and on Adriana, they head off into Paris, walking down the streets and talking, non-stop about stuff about Paris and stuff. And she just talks about her life, like how she went to school and she learned some interesting tricks from a prostitute about, it's how to seduce men and stuff.
Yeah, actually, just backpedaling here, about this part, he's talking to Salvador Dali, Man Ray, and Louis Buñuel,
Yes.
and they're surrealist painters and stuff.
Yeah.
He's trying to explain he's come from the future.
Yeah.
And being surrealist and stuff and weird thinking guys said, well, they find nothing out of the ordinary of this.
Yeah, and he also tells them about his situation, that he's in love with Adriana, but he's also in love with his present fiancée. Or he says he thinks he loves her, but he's not sure. They say, you're in love with two women, and I can see that this is a very complex situation, considering that he's come from the future. And as Mike says, to them, this is not something strange. It's because
actually, just because
they live with this strange. Goodness gracious me.
And I didn't notice before, when just when he's leaving these two guys, he tries to tell this Louis Buñuel guy a plot for a movie.
That was much later.
And I didn't know what. No, yeah, we told it. And when he's leaving him, and he says, blah blah. I said, I don't understand it. And I gathered that's a movie he actually made called The Exterminating Angel.
Yeah.
That's what the movie was that Buñuel was supposed to make, and so he actually gave him the plot so he could go and create the movie.
Yeah, but that comes much later.
Yeah, well,
obviously.
not that much later.
Anyway, he goes back to the present where he's starting to realize, thanks to the surrealist, that his book is too realistic. So he needs to use his imagination a little bit more. To pad it out.
Yeah.
So his...
Time travel's good.
Yeah, true. Anyway, his girlfriend continues pestering him about, let's go here to this place, let's go to this place, yada yada. She doesn't care at this point about what he wants to do in Paris. Anyway, so soon enough he goes, her father gets, I guess, a detective following
private
him.
investigator to follow him to find out where he goes at night.
Yeah, thinking he might be having an affair behind the side, which he is not wrong there, technically.
Sort of yes and sort of no, not in that time.
Yeah.
Ah.
Anyway, Gil gets into the car, and he goes back in time again. There he meets Gertrude, and Gertrude tells him that Adriana has left Pablo and is now hanging out with Hemingway in some area. Yeah. And she goes on to tell him about his book and says that the book is a bit depressing a little bit because
there needs to be some sort of
hope built into it.
It needs to have
hope built into the story.
It's negative. His life's a downward spiral, but there's no hope at the end of it. Then she said you need to bring some hope into it somewhere.
Yeah, she calls it. She says the job for a writer or artist is to find some hope in the story.
To put into the story. Yes.
Anyway, so Pablo's a little miserable that he lost Adriana, his lover. Anyway, so we get back to the present. Inez and her parents are going off to, I don't know where they're going off to, but they're heading off, and they're leaving Gil behind. And Inez tells them that Pablo, that something about Gil's quoting the line saying that Pablo never left his studio, but kept on working. And she says, "You have nothing in common with Pablo." Of course, he's taking advice from professionals in their field about this sort of thing. So he's listening to some really useful advice. So
from
Gil,
real people.
Yeah. So Gil starts, walking the streets of Paris. There he meets. He does find an old journal that belonged to Adriana back in the 1920s.
Yeah, but he finds this old second-hand bookshop and finds this old diary journal, and it just happens to be the diary that Adrienne had been writing, and he flicks through it a bit. Doesn't understand French that well, so he takes it to that lady.
Yeah, he gets to a tourist lady who toured them in at an area. I don't know what part of Paris they were in, but she reads through the book. It's in French after all, and she works out that Adriana is had a dream that she got these nice earrings that she gets from Gil, and they make love.
And she's the the nicest guy she's met for an awful long time.
Yeah. Then Gil he then tries to steal some of Inez's earrings, but then his fiancée and her parents return
Come back early from where they're coming from.
Yeah, where her something about her father having a heart attack and needs to be looked over.
He wasn't feeling well. He had a heart operation or something the year before or something.
And she begins to wonder what happened to her earrings, and they start suspecting maybe the maid and stuff like that. And Gil tries to defend the maid, even though we don't know her, and he eventually takes the earrings out of the box and tries to make out that you must have left them on the sink. But by the sounds of it, I think she left them in one of those special safe security boxes.
Well, yeah, in the bedroom, but
yeah.
Whatever.
So, anyway, so Gil goes to a special jewelry shop, buys some earrings, and then heads to the spot where the car picks him up. And not too far off, the detective ends up following him in his own separate car.
Somehow or other, he follows the old car, and he ends up following him back in time somehow or other.
Yeah, we'll get to that next part. Yes,
because
don't go there just yet. I want to wait that to
he disappears. I can't find him after that.
Yeah. Anyway, Gil eventually arrives at Gertrude, who's discussing plans about buying some paintings from a famous artist. I don't know who he is. I can't remember. And she tells Gil that Adriana's back in town, and things didn't work out with Hemingway between them. So they are at a party, that Mike referred to, one the surrealist was having, and there he meets her there, and there was the scene where the director, the surrealist director, he discusses the plot for his movie, obviously. Yeah. Anyway, so Adriana and Gil, they head off walking down the street, and they kiss, and Gil starts feeling a little sad. Like, he feels like that he didn't feel like he wanted to be sure about. He didn't feel like he's not sure of himself. Throughout this movie, he's always unsure about everything.
Yeah, he's doing double takes, and do I stay here or go back to the future or present? Yeah.
He then presents the earrings to Adriana, and as she's putting them in her ears, we then see an 1800s carriage roll up.
That's correct. Yeah.
There we see a bunch of people dressed in 1800s drag, and they invite the pair to further into the past.
It says the carriage transports the passengers to the Belle Epoque, whatever, an era Adriana considers Paris's golden age. Yeah. We think it's about 1890-ish or something or other, 1880s, 1890s. Yeah.
So anyway, they're at a nice party where everyone's dancing the waltz in the old-fashioned way.
Or whatever they're doing,
And Adriana decides they should go to Moulin Rouge. I mean, the dance hall.
Yeah.
There we see
Toulouse-Lautrec.
Yeah, a famous painter and advertiser who did a painting of a picture to advertise for Moulin Rouge was used to promote the Moulin Rouge years ago.
And there's two other guys there.
Yeah, Degas and Gauguin. And they were discussing how this age is boring, and they want to be around the time when the Renaissance was.
Yeah, because no one's ever happy in their own period. Yeah. They said, the golden age, way back when.
Yeah, Adriana is
even back in the way back when, they said way back when.
Adriana is like saying to them, this is the golden age, but they think differently. And Gil's starting to realize that there is a bit of a... Everyone wants to dream about another decade, another era. I often dream about different eras. I like to be either in the 70s, the 80s, maybe back in the 90s before, when I was, say, little, obviously. Of course, this is just my way of thinking that those times were perfect, but maybe not. They weren't perfect, really, to be honest.
My problem is, I would love to go back to a golden time.
I think we all do.
The problem is, I don't want to be an old, fat, balding, 70-year-old man with health issues going back in time where I can't really enjoy it.
I also like the idea of going back to the 1800s, like Adriana, or back to the 1920s, like Gil has. But aside from going back in time, I would like to go back into a different country, in a different area. Anyway,
you don't want to speak English,
because if I go back in time, where I am. I could be just going back to. I would probably. There won't be very anything around in Australia.
If you went back 300 years where we're sitting right now, it would be bush. There'd be no white people.
No, exactly.
So-
It would not have. There won't be any medieval knights. There would not be anything.
So you have to pick an area.
Most of the eras I'm thinking of are in Europe and in Asia and stuff. So we can't really choose. Anyway, Gil takes Andrea aside and she asks him, maybe we should stay here in this period.
In the 1890s,
She thinks this is the greatest era. And Gil says, maybe...
It's
but I
to
want
her.
to... Yeah, that's to her. But to him, the 1920s was the golden age.
era.
And he remarks that he had this horrible dream that when he went to the dentist, they didn't have Novocaine, and well, just because it would just be if he stays in 1920s.
You wouldn't get run over by a car.
True.
No.
But if he stays in 1920s or the 1800s, they would then be dreaming about another era that
The Renaissance.
Before that, and Andrea says that
but
you're
dinosaur
just
time, hey?
yeah.
Right.
Adrian thinks that he's just thinking foolishness and says you choose not to stay in Paris. You made the choice and all that stuff. And she says, I'm going to stay here at the most splendid time that
In the
France
1890s,
was. So she makes her way back to the nice Ben, and Gil goes back to the 1920s where he meets Gertrude, and she tells him that he's on the right track with his book.
He's rewritten the first 2 chapters and says, yeah, you're on the right track. It's heading in the right direction. It's really, really good.
Yeah, and she then tells him that she also let Hemingway look at it, even though after Hemingway gave his lecture about how you don't want the opinion about another writer, but I think he probably liked it, and Gertrude gave her his honest opinion about it, obviously.
Yeah.
So she then tells him that she does want to mention about one of the characters in the book, what's his name? What's the term for it? Did she use? The pedantic fella, she calls him, and this pedantic fella is having an affair with the lead character's wife.
And Hemingway said something like, he can't understand why the main character, which is based on Gil, didn't realise that his fiancée, based on Inez, is having an affair with the character based on Paul. And he actually... I think he suspects that he's in denial.
Yeah. Then, of course, Gil realizes this, and he heads back to the present where he confronts Inez about this.
She initially says, "How dare you?" And then after a few minutes, she admits
that she had an affair with him, and she keeps on going on round about him, and she bent on still, getting married to him. But he says, "No, I'm not going back to America. I'm going to stay in Paris and continue writing my book." Inez doesn't even register at first, but then after a knock from her parents, she tells them, "We're breaking up." So, and
that makes Mummy and Daddy happy. They didn't like him.
Anyway, he then goes out, and her father tells him about how he knew something was up to no good. Bullshit.
And that's why he got the private investigator.
Yeah, and he goes on to say that he had a man follow Gil for the last couple of weeks, and
or week or whatever.
Yeah, and how he gets into a car, and
the problem is,
the detective's disappeared.
Don't know where he is.
And then we cross over to the detective, who is right in either the 16 or 1500s. I'm not sure.
Whenever Louis the...
What was King Louis?
King Louis. Around Musketeers and that sort of period. Yeah, when Versailles was built and that sort of stuff.
And
he's back in that period there and he's being chased by the guards in the Palace of Versailles. Whoops.
I do wonder how he's going to get back. Not that it's...
I don't think he knows how to get back. He's stuck in the past.
Anyway, Gil is wandering around the Paris, enjoying his time, his free time. And there he, as night falls, we then hear the chimes from the clock indicating it's probably midnight, and somewhere out there, someone else is being picked up by the imaginary car somewhere.
Well, not an imaginary car. It's a real car.
The car that's taking people back in time.
But he didn't go. It's not his turn to go now.
Anyway,
he's happy with his time now. Yeah.
Gil then runs into Gabrielle, and there they chit-chat for a bit. And
he offers to walk her home.
Yeah, and she tells him her name, Gabrielle, and she tells him about how she found some Cole Porter songs, and she thought of him. And I think this is where he's going to start developing a relationship with her.
A nice lady.
Oh, and he tells her that he plans on living in Paris, which he's thrilled.
Yes, lovely.
Then we cut to the credits, folks, where we hear this beautiful melody type music, the period stuff. It sounds beautiful.
Very lovely.
Anyway, then the story ends. I do think this is a good movie. I think
fun.
It's fun and refreshing to see a movie where you actually go to an actual film location somewhere instead of these CGI stuff. I know that this movie may have had a few CGI moments.
Well, I don't think it had. Honestly, I don't. You get on CGI thing. I don't know why, but if there was, it wasn't noticeable and it probably wasn't needed, so leave it alone.
Yeah, there might have been a few sets, like period sets involved.
I think they actually made the sets up. Some of the old streetscapes would look just the same.
Yeah, I just meant like the indoor shot scenes.
Yeah.
Like
have you ever heard of a sound studio?
I do.
Right,
that's what I mean. Like they probably developed the sets for the inside sets, and to make sure that it looks period, even
and it looked convincing, had a good feel. Now, I don't watch a lot of Woody Allen pictures.
Well, neither
No. It does not. It's not. I mean, he's in a different sort of type of movie that I like watching. But this is a good Woody Allen picture.
I agree.
Okay, I like it. I might go back and revisit some of his other works and ones I've missed out on and see if they're as good. He hasn't been my top of the pile type guy to watch. Yeah, I like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and other guys.
The one thing I like about this movie is instead of using special effects to make time going backwards and stuff like that, this one just requires on a car.
You get in the car, drive down the street, and around the corner you're an old time. That's it. So you didn't have to do these whizzing through time and whirlwinds and like the time tunnel and different things. No, nothing like that. Yeah, it's really good. It was nice and low key,
and basic,
sometimes less is more.
That's
now let's get back to something what inspired me about this film. I've been into films. I've been watching films and collecting films for years, and Sarah is a reasonably new filmmaker in the past couple of years. Now, I keep telling her about lighting, and sometimes white light is too white. And this is a typical example. In this movie, Woody Allen has gone for the warmer tones that you would expect in incandescent lights, the old filament lights, candle light, firelight, where you get the warmer tones. And he's brought that into the older times in the restaurants and stuff, and the people's homes of the older era to bring that nice warm feeling and glow into it. And I think she's starting to understand what I've been talking about. Because there's a special glow when it comes to that incandescent light. It's a bit like an amber colour. It just brings the colours out a bit different, and it's got a nice warm feel to it.
Yeah.
And I think Woody Allen nailed it when he decided to do it that way.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good when it came to the 1920s. It had that nice, good, warm appeal that made the period come to life a little bit. And that's what you're trying to say, right, Mike?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how, I did capture something for me, especially the nighttime scenes where even the scenes where they're just having, in the modern times, but they would just eat by candlelight, and there was a bit of warmthness there, but the period 1920s did have a bit of a nice good warmthness. Yeah. I did like the final bit with the detective being chased down by the guards of Versailles.
Whoops. Yeah, it reminded me of Timeline, where the guy went back in time right at the end of it, and he went through the machine there, and he came out right in the middle of a battle, and someone's going to cut his head off, and he was a nasty guy.
Yeah.
Good ending.
Yeah, I do like to think that if he did return into the Young Detective,
no one will believe
no one will
him.
believe him, and they'll probably send him to an
Not us.
institute.
Yeah,
Or
exactly
something.
right.
Like, he'll just ramble on about, weird people wearing costumes, wearing...
It could have been a film set. No, it wasn't. No.
Well...
Because I drove to it. It was... anyway.
and they probably would be questioning, what happened to your car? Well, I left it at Bussard.
Well, yeah, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? What to do with it?
Yeah.
We found this old car in an archaeological dig.
Oh, that reminds me a little bit of another movie where it dealt with a time, time travel with the whole Dials of Destiny.
The latest Indiana Jones movie.
That was pretty cool.
They found a wristwatch on Archimedes' wrist, and obviously he lived several thousand years ago, and he got a modern-day wristwatch on.
That one's funny.
That'd be a good indication of time travel.
Yeah.
Now, what I was going to say is, Woody Allen, when he wrote this, he wrote it backwards. Instead of writing a movie and then giving it a title, he came up for title, Midnight in Paris, and developed the storyline around the title. And I think he had... he was influenced by something that Hemingway wrote back in 1964. It was published after Hemingway died, A Movable Feast.
I heard that story.
I haven't. So
I haven't read it myself
So
either.
So he got inspired by that, and he had Midnight in Paris, and he wrote a story around the title. Interesting, hey?
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Well, you got
a very clever man.
He is a clever. I mean, considering the fact he added that character, a number of other characters in this movie, which I thought was pretty cool. Especially adding Hemingway, who would quote lines. I imagine if I imagine in articles in old newspapers, he would have used exactly some of the similar lines that Hemingway would have used.
I think he got inspired by him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And I think seeing as he's the writer and the director in this Woody Allen, I think he probably put himself in the story in Gil's shoes when you think about it. Like so many people out there who would be the writer and the director would often put themselves in the story, considering this is about a script writer who wants to try his hand at ordinary writing books instead of writing scripts.
When they actually were writing it, they thought about Owen Wilson playing the part, but they actually had to rewrite some of the script to make it suit Owen Wilson's personality.
I get it.
Because they wanted to be a bit more Eastern, so they changed a bit to make him more like he's from California.
I get it.
So they actually changed some of the personality traits and some of the things he would say, and it worked out quite nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta admit, it was pretty cool. Especially how I liked that his character very much. Especially how he dreams of. I mean, I know Mike here doesn't agree with me about Paris, but I do like the idea of actually checking out the Louvre.
Look, I wouldn't mind going to Paris for holiday. Yes.
Yeah, and maybe the what was it called? The Notre Dame. Even though Notre Dame is still under the mend when you think about it.
Yeah, but you still go down and look
considering
at it.
It's still under construction after its bomb explosion.
If I did get to France, which I may or may not, I would go and definitely see the Louvre Museum. I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'd go up the Eiffel Tower, and everyone else does,
Yeah, and I like to check out Claude Monet's garden and his house.
Yeah.
So you guys know,
Claude's place,
just this week I've actually checked out Monet in Paris, a special exhibit that's in Brisbane at this moment. Go check it out. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, the people live in Brisbane.
I'm just saying, it's like actually probably living in Paris, guys.
Hey, here's something. I know you're waffling here about that Monet and stuff. Woody Allen's directorial style placed more emphasis on the romantic and realistic elements of the film.
I figured
than
that.
the fantasy element. So he just tried to make it a normal movie. Hey, he's gone back in time, so here we are. And he just tried to make it like a normal movie. in a period.
Yeah,
and it feels so good and comfortable. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, not absorbed in fancy, like, all sparkling colours and stuff like that.
And weird crap happening. You know, just made day-to-day life, meeting these people and doing whatever, and you just try to make it a bit of romance and just day-to-day crap going on.
I just think it was cool. I just thought it was pretty cool, especially how Gil gets introduced to this thing by just simply that he's drunk, he's walking around, and then he somehow gets invited into a car, an ancient car, and he goes back in time, like he was just an ordinary taxi driving into his next obligations.
Now, I'm not going to go through all the reviews because we're running out of time. Generally speaking, I think most of the reviewers liked it.
That's a relief.
No. I mean, it's a good movie.
It's a good watch.
And the box office said it's a good movie. It's nice to see the reviewers on the same page as the box office. Okay? And the reviewers generally have liked it.
And I like the fact that he won so many awards from this movie.
It was nomination after nomination after nomination and lots and lots of awards. Considering, okay, look, here's an example. Okay, there's on the page there's about 20, there's probably about 20, over 30 nominations.
And not a raspberry among them.
Wait a minute. And they won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 8. Now, the ones they won: Best Original Screenplay by Woody Allen, Best Screenplay Original, different areas, Academy Awards and whatever, Screenplay Original again, British Fantasy Award for Best Screenplay. So everyone liked the screenplay in different sort of thingies, different awards. Best Screenplay, Woody Allen, Best Compilation Soundtrack.
Woody Allen.
He got the right music. It works.
Yeah.
Best Original Screenplay again. Best Original Screenplay. Best Foreign Film. It's made in France.
True.
So yeah. But it's also Best Foreign Film was also done. It was in Grande Premo Brasilia. So it could be in Brazil. So, okay, Brazil made the foreign film because it came from America. Yeah. But yeah, so best foreign film and a lot for the screenplay. And if you've got a good screenplay and you get a good director like Woody Allen... It did
have a good music feel, guys.
And
I
like period,
For the opening music, which I often thought the opening was pretty cool, especially how it didn't have clutters of the credits all over the place, all over the opening.
No, you had the it's what did you say? Pan, droning, whatever.
A lot of good, nice location shots.
Cityscapes and whatever. But they didn't have the credits going over it. They had some music, didn't they?
Yeah, they had music. And when they were done shooting the scenes, they then cut to the credit.
A few credits up.
They cut to the title card. Then we don't hear any music anymore. We just hear Gil talking to Inez, blah, 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 blah.
Black screen, wasn't it?
Yeah, black screen, and a bit of, who stars what, and the director, that's it.
Yeah.
Which is a little different because usually sometimes right at the beginning you have the credits and sometimes you have images and music all over the place and then we cut to this actual story at the beginning and then we start the movie.
I'm not going to go too much here, but done all the bits. I will highly recommend this movie for lots of reasons.
Okay.
One
is
Woody Allen does make a good picture.
Mm-hmm. It's a good period.
No, he makes a good picture. He's a good writer and he's a good director. And again, I don't watch a lot of Woody Allen, but for what I saw of this film, it's a really good product. Mm-hmm. The storyline is a good storyline if you like fantasy comedy. It'd be right in there for all the other ones, if not probably top of the pile. The sets, the costumes, everything that you need to make a good film is in there.
Exactly.
And that's why when I rate it, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
I'm going to rate it 10 out of 10. It's been a while since I've actually did a movie
I don't normally do
high.
A 10, but I think Woody Allen has surpassed himself in making this film.
Yes, and I hope we do see more of period, not period. I mean, actual films on actual locations more from him. Obviously.
Well, I'm going to go and have a look at his back catalogue sort of stuff of movies there, and revisit some and see if there's anything else we can review, because this one. I mean, he's done some good movies over the years, but the ones I haven't seen haven't grabbed me that much, but this one grabs me. Yeah.
It's just that these days a lot of movies seem to be so absorbed into this whole CGI stuff. You don't have to travel overseas to actually do it. You can bring a consultant on board to tell you what it looks like, and send a crew
picture in there,
or send a crew over there to film some stock shots for the movie to make sure it still looks like we're in Paris.
They did a lot of stuff over there, which is good.
They did a lot of film on location stuff, which is even good.
Anyway.
So
I'm going to give it 10. You're giving it 10.
Yes.
Fine. Where can you get it? eBay. There's plenty for sale, new and used. Okay. Amazon. It's rentable, and there's also plenty for sale there as well. So other streaming sites, other places you can buy them, they've probably got them. I would strongly suggest this one. If you like good movies, add this one to your collection.
Right. So that's Midnight in Paris. So you know where to get it. Know our thoughts on it. Now it's up to you guys at home to actually watch the blasted thing.
And get back to saying, hey, we thought it was a really good movie. Hopefully, and you agree with us.
And keep an open mind about it, guys. Don't expect flashing lights or anything like that.
It's just a really good, you'll say fantasy, romantic
fantasy,
comedy,
drama,
sort of,
romance.
It's just a good
Just keep an open mind about it. Keep an open mind about it. If don't expect an over-the-top fantasy, guys.
No, it's just the only fantasy part is going back in time to a different era.
Yes.
That's it. Rest of it is just a straight movie.
Yes.
But it's really well done. And look, kids, I wouldn't say kids, but teenagers could watch it and probably enjoy it. Young adults, mid-adults, older people. I think everyone could get something out of this movie. You don't often get that.
It does make me think of, not comparing it to any other movie, but actually a book. It makes me think of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where you take an object like a wardrobe, you enter a different world.
Yeah, well, I suppose a bit of a segue into that. Yes, bless you.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is a bit like, we've got a car. I'd rather go in a car instead of walking. Actually, there was
that's interesting.
There was a British TV show, Goodnight Sweetheart, and that had the same thing. A guy had a memorabilia shop, and out the back on his back wall, he could actually walk through his back wall and go back into the war period, which is about 50 years earlier or something, 50, 60 years earlier. Yeah. And you go, whoa, okay, and he sort of went backwards and forwards to his back wall of his shop. Yeah, interesting.
See, just simple and
the same similar idea, yeah. But anyway, I like time travel sort of basic little things. They're fun.
Yeah, I certainly like this type of one that takes place in foreign times and stuff like that, and just good costuming and wardrobe and locations.
I reckon it's great. I like Owen Wilson. He's funny, and the movies I've seen him in, so yeah, he's okay. Good actor, and the other people, all the other supporting actors in it are great.
Yeah. I also feel the same way about foreign films. That's what I like about foreign films.
It's not really a foreign film. It's an American movie done in Paris.
Yeah, true. But you got to admit, even the ones that are, like the ones that don't get very mainstreamed often, they do okay too. And they have something that Western films don't seem to capture anymore.
Like Dario Argento type movies and stuff.
Not just that, not those ones. I mean, something that's, like you said, original ideas.
Yeah, I like original ideas.
Like stuff that comes out of the box, that's all your imagination.
Yeah, you don't want formula movies all the time. You want something fresh, and this is fresh.
I know I keep saying this, guys, but I would love it if they could go back to original ideas, stuff like that.
And there's not too many around. It's a lot of it's been done already, but people say, oh, let's go and do another, here we go, done that before. I mean, okay, I won't go into it too much here, but over the so many decades of watching movies, I have seen several movies about a female marrying a Middle Eastern man and going back to his country, and then being stuck in there, and they had to try and get her out. Several movies. I've seen several movies about a lady being married to a controlling husband. and she has to either kill him off or fake her own death or something to get out of the marriage. I mean, it gets a bit samey after a while, and you got the problem. It just keeps going over and over. There's no fresh ideas, and that's why when you get independence. Now, Woody Allen's not an independent, obviously.
No,
but when you get some guy who writes it, produces it, directs it, there's no one saying, hey, you got to do it this way. No, they go and do their movie their way, and sometimes it's really, 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 really good because it's all fresh.
And maybe the producers will at least give you free reign a little bit.
Yeah.
Or at least give you enough rope to work on the film project.
He's got credibility. He's been around for years. So he's a good wrider. Well, if this is any indication. And he's a good director. There's other people. Ronnie Howard, he does a lot of good stuff. But they're not doing your Lucas and Spielberg stuff. They're just doing the ordinary type movies. And and Carpenter.
Carpenter has his own choice.
Yeah, who's the other guy? Come across online.
Well, there's been
Cameron.
Yeah, James Cameron.
He does really good movies, but he doesn't follow the same trend as everybody else.
Yes.
The other guys don't. They do their own thing, and which is great.
That's probably one of the reasons why new faces or new directors or ones that just follow the money. That's the word.
Yeah.
Are just doing it way the executive producers tell them what to do.
Go and do that. Throw in a sex scene. That'll make it interesting. And we need a stupid guy in there to make put some funny lines in it. No, you don't do that. Write a good script. And if you build it, they will come. Just like in the Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
If you make something really good, people are going to go to the theatre and see it. They're going to love it.
Yeah.
But don't make up the same crap again and just serve it up. It's like leftovers. We had that last night for dinner.
It's the same when I thought when I was watching the Invitation movie. I mean,
what?
In that movie, by the third act, it was like going down one of those slides at. And you feel like there is nothing there. Yeah. You feel like there's nothing that will grip the audience.
It's getting boring, was it?
Yeah, because by the time the vampire catches up to our heroine, she goes down the aisle, and you think, okay, she's definitely going to go through this whole wedding thing, and yada, yada, yada. And, of course, nothing is there to grip the story. Like, does she have a plan in her head? We don't see it on her face. I mean, I like it somewhat where, like you said in this movie, Mike, with Gertrude, where she says you need to find hope for the audience, for the the main character.
Okay, there's always exceptions to the rule, okay? But you need a good opening, and you need a good ending.
Exactly.
Okay? Doesn't matter if it's a story in a book or a story being done on film. It's got to bring you into the movie. It's got to be interesting in the movie, and it's got to give you a good ending. Alfred Hitchcock used to do quick cuts right at the end. Here is your climax, a quick cut to a epilogue, and straight to the credits. Okay, and left you on a high. Other ones, they do a bit of a summary and bring it all together, and like that one, Buried Alive. The guy there, he finally got out and he went and built his life somewhere else. He said, we got away, and that sort of stuff. Things like there's some hope at the end of it. You need to have something to say, this guy was buried, poisoned, and blah, 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 and got vengeance, and then it's just kill off here while he's killing everybody. No, you have somebody else out. He had hope. He went and he got his life back together again somewhere else.
So that's Midnight in Paris, guys. So be sure to check it out, like we said, and let us know in the comments what you guys think of it.
But it's not an action movie. It's a romantic.
It's a romantic
fantasy comedy with a little bit of romance thrown in here. Not a drama.
Whatever.
It's a fantasy. It's comedy, fantasy comedy.
Period.
A little bit of romance in it.
And a little bit of period.
But it's good fun watch. Good for all the family. I wouldn't put the kiddies in front of it, but because they wouldn't understand it.
They wouldn't understand it. They'll think it's boring.
Yeah.
If my niece and nephew were here, they'll probably think, this movie's boring.
They don't want to watch a Barbie movie or something. And we won't go there, folks. We're not going to review that one.
Yeah. Anyway, so be sure to check it out. And so that's everything we need to discuss.
Yeah.
So be sure to check it out and let us know in the comments what you guys think of it. So this is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
Saying see you guys around, and we'll see you guys on our next episode, whenever that might be. Bye for now.
Bye.